सेटा मु आइते एटा सेटा फाइनल नुह फाइनल टा आसुची आप एक काम कर पाएंगे एक बार वहाँ से जाकर ना फाइनल शेड्यूल का स्टेज पे है सुनील बोल के करेंगे हमारे IIM से एक बार उनको शेड्यूल के बारे में पूछ के आइए ना
कि अभी हैं क्या वहाँ?
हाँ हाँ वहीं पे रहेंगे आई थिंक ग्रीन रूम कोई समय रहेंगे शायद तक वो
क्या नाम बताएं?
सुनील
सुनील
उनके पास ये रहेगा इसलिए 2 ले आइएगा शेड्यूल प्रोग्राम शेड्यूल ले आइएगा आपका ठीक है ना क्लियर आ रहा है ना ऑडियो? हाँ
दरवाजा दे दीजिए ना
दरवाजा बंद कर
तो गेट बंद हो जाएगा चेक करें
ऑफ कर ऑन इसे चेक करने की
अब एंकर जो माइक टा सेटा केते नंबर रहछ
एथिरे 16 17 15 16
चेक कर छी
हां
ओ सर नीलकंठ नहीं अश्मिता का नीलकंठ कैसे नीलकंठ भी नहीं
मिक्सर पर कि आपण
से रही मु भी रही से भी रही
भाई लाइक मो पाखक टोटाल ऊपर आसु गोटे ट्रक है तेणु आपण जो इंडिविजुअल ट्रैक जब अधिक कम करा हम ना तेणु आप इंडिविजुअल ट्रैक करेंगे बुझिपारे
माने मेन रो मास्टर करिबेनी कहसंते
मास्टर इंडिविजुअल ए ट्रैक रो दरकार पड़छ ए ट्रैक रो ये करी मास्टर टा पके मु मॉनिटर आउट नहीं मॉनिटर आउट नहीं कि रेकॉर्ड कर
ଆମର ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ବୋଲେ କୋଉଟା କହୁଛନ୍ତି ବୁଝିପାରୁନି ଆମର ଟୋଟାଲି 3ଟା ମାଇକ୍ ପଡ଼ିଛି ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ ତ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଏଠି ଇଏ 4ଟା ପଡ଼ୁଛି
ନାଇଁ ମୁଁ ସେଇ କଥା କହୁଛି ଇଏ ସବୁଥିର ମିକ୍ସ ହେଇକି ଯେଉଁ ଆଉଟପୁଟଟା ଆସୁଛି ମୁଁ ସେଇଟା ନେଇଛି ତେଣୁ ମୁଁ ଇଏ ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ କ୍ଲିକ୍ ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ ଚେଞ୍ଜ କରିପାରିବିନି ତେଣୁ ଆପଣ ଏଇଟା ଯଦି କମ୍ ଆସୁଛି ଆପଣ ହିଁ ଏଠୁ କମେଇକି ସେଠୁ ଦେଇପାରିବେ
ଠିକ୍ ଅଛି
ଆଉ ଏଠି ଯଦି ଅଧିକ ଆସୁଛି ଆପଣ
W wouldn't से चेक करो पॉइंट दे माइंड अश्मिता अश्मिता
Hello. 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 Am I audible? Hello? Hello? Hello?
check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check.
Hello.
Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check.
check, check. Sound clear? Check, check, check.
welcome all of you on behalf of IIM Sambalpur fraternity to the 9th Pan IIM World Management Conference. Today, we gather to embark on a journey of knowledge, collaboration, and innovation as we inaugurate this prestigious event that brings together some of the brightest minds from the world of management. This conference is not merely a confluence of ideas, it is a celebration of the power of collective intelligence where diverse perspectives converge to illuminate the path forward. I would now request Chief Guest Mr. Romal Shetty, CEO, Deloitte, Guest of Honor Mr. S.N. Tripathi, DG, IIPA, New Delhi, Keynote Speaker Mr. Ratnesh Jha, Executive Director, UN Global Compact, Professor Mahadev Jaiswal, Founding Director, IIM Sambalpur, and respected directors from other IIMs, Professor Sudhender Rao, Conference Chair, to grace the dais. Please. Light is a symbol of brightness and prosperity. On this note, as a tribute to Goddess Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge and wisdom, I would now request all the dignitaries on dais to come forward for lamp lighting ceremony. Please.
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तु ते दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो हरतु मे पापम् सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तु ते ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः ओ दीपब्रह्मरूपस्त्वं ज्योतिषां प्रभुरव्ययः आरोग्यं देहि पुत्रांश्च मतिं स्वच्छां हि मे सदा रवेरस्त
I would now request Professor Mahadev Jaiswal to welcome our chief guest, Mr. Romal Shetty. I would now request Professor Jaiswal to welcome our guest of honor, Mr. S.N. Tripathi. I would now request Professor Jaiswal to welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Ratnesh Shah. I would now request Professor Sudhender Rao to welcome Professor Kulbhushan Baloni, Director IIM Kashipur. I would now request Professor Sudhender Rao to welcome Professor Pawan Kumar Singh, Director IIM Trichy. I would now request Professor Sudhender Rao to welcome Professor Bhima Rai Maitri, Director IIM Nagpur. Now I would request Sir to welcome Professor B.S. Sahai, Director IIM Jammu. Thank you, sir. As we all are aware, the success of any educational institution depends on the leader who has strong leadership skills, management skills, and an optimistic belief. So I now take the honor to introduce our esteemed director, IIM Sambalpur, Professor Mahadev Jaiswal. Professor Jaiswal is the founding director of Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur. Prior to this, he was professor and dean at MDI Gurgaon, a PGPX from MIT, USA, PhD in computer science from Delhi University, and senior Fulbright fellow from Carnegie Mellon University, USA. He holds expertise in innovation strategy for startups, digital innovation, ERP, and IT strategy. I extend warm welcome to Professor Jaiswal to share his worldview and knowledge. Sir, please.
Good evening, everyone. Chief guest of this 9th Pan IIM World Management Conference, Mr. Romel Sethi, CEO Deloitte South Asia. Guest of honor, Mr. Ratnesh Jha, Executive Director, UN Global Impact. Guest of honor, Mr. Surendra Nath Tripathi, Director General, IIPA, New Delhi. My director colleagues, Professor B.S. Sahai, Professor Baloni, Professor Maitri, Professor Pawan Kumar, and my colleague, Professor Surendra Rao, other distinguished guests present, many delegates from industry, academia, government, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to welcome you all to this IIM Sambalpur on behalf of 9th Pan IIM World Management Conference. We are doing this inauguration a day before what was scheduled earlier due to sudden declaration of holiday tomorrow, first forenoon by Government of India, and therefore we have to do this event today itself because many of our guests will be leaving tomorrow afternoon. This 9th Pan IIM World Management Conference was started by all the IIM together, and idea was that all the premium institute like IIM should come together and work together, collaborate together, of course compete also. So in that process, last conference which we all attended physically was held at IIM Rohtak. Prior to that, IIM Bangalore. And last conference was supposed to be at IIM Kozhikode, which happened online. So this is the first physical conference happening after the gap of 3 to 4 years. This year, this conference has attracted more than 1,000 research proposals submitted and about 900 delegates, which is combined physical and online, are attending this conference. Many are still on the way to reach this place because it was scheduled for tomorrow morning. And I am especially thankful to Mr. Romel Sethi and other distinguished guests and my fellow directors for making this evening themselves available here. IIM Sambalpur is very delighted to welcome you all. This IIM started in 2015 and today it is fully functional campus, and we also have set up our satellite campus at New Delhi, Basant Kunj, and we started our executive MBA program last year. And so these two campuses combined together, we have different kind of programs. Research is of course priority for any top institutions, and this conference is basically a research conference where large number of ideas from different institutions of the country and abroad will get presented in the next 3 days. I'm sure you will all go with excellent memory of this institute and also the intellectual gathering. The theme of this year is very unique. We are talking about entrepreneurial innovation and digital governance. These two things are very important in the current context because countries' GDPs are based on entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship thrives only when you have better governance. So governance and entrepreneurship are both linked. We are fortunate the current government of our central as well as state, both are very professionally promoting this entrepreneurship and business across country. And as a result, India has now become the 5th largest economy in terms of GDP. We are about $4 trillion. And I am sure in the next 2 to 3 years, it will cross $5 and $6 trillion and it will become 3rd largest GDP. Now if you see what are the identification of the countries are known by 2 kind of powers. One is called hard power and second is called soft power. Hard power of course includes military and physical infrastructure, etc. The soft power includes 3 basic elements. One is called research, second is called innovation, and third is entrepreneurship. Now, what is the position of India in terms of research? In terms of research, if you talk how much funds are used to conduct research, we are about 0.75% of our GDP we are spending on research, which is fairly very low as compared to many developed and developing countries. So research is still an area for concern for our country, and you all are gathered here for the research. The second area which makes the country strong in terms of soft power is called innovation. When research converts into new ideas and new product, that's the innovation. In terms of innovation index, 2023, India is ranked 40th among the top 120 countries, which was 5 years back 80th position. So we are improving on innovation. Means we are still lagging behind 39 countries in terms of creating new ideas and new product out of research. Third important element of soft power is called entrepreneurship, business. And if you talk in terms of startup, India is now a 3rd largest ecosystem in the world, US, China and India. And very soon it will become number 2. And that is where business school also has to play an important role. Entrepreneurship and startups, that is where today India is emerging. Now we'll have to question, is research important or innovation important or entrepreneurship? You know, country like US, which has more than $20 trillion economy, India is still about $4 trillion economy. So when you talk about GDP spend on R&D, you know, we are still a developing country and we have to unless we create more GDP, we will not be able to create more innovation and more research. At the same time, if research is and innovation is not there, then how the country's soft power will improve? These are the dilemma which we all have to toss for and we all have to research for. Should the country focus more on entrepreneurship and startup? And in order to promote that, you need better governance, more better policies. The central as well as state government bodies are both, and many other states are working hard in terms of coming out with very innovative policies to promote entrepreneurship. A lot of time when we study and our young students study, they all look for jobs. We feel that becoming a CEO or becoming a bureaucrat is something which is better for your life. But we need to understand from the developed country like US and some developed country in Europe, the best brain in those countries are going for creation of new ideas. And more the number of new entrepreneurs, new startup comes, that country is developing more. So that is a dilemma in which I think you all will be discussing for the next 3 days. Many of you will be talking about that. And I have no doubt India will reposition its economy in terms of creating new ideas-based business, and innovation-driven entrepreneurship will drive the country. The entire IIM systems, IIM ecosystems, I would say, all 21 IIMs, they all are working in terms of promoting innovation-driven business, that is called startups. And our Honorable Prime Minister himself is leading to drive this country into ecosystem of startups. We have more than 120 unicorn today. We have more than lakhs of startups which are already operating across countries. However, in terms of funding coming to the startups are still coming from overseas companies, overseas funders. I think India needs to also come forward and attract investment from various corporates and individuals, wealth creators, to create this ecosystems for startups. The governance, we have some important people sitting here. Mr. Sudhanshu Sarangi, the IPS officer, and he is not only an IPS officer, he is also a professor of business and governance, which he teaches at IIM Sambalpur. Is sitting here. We welcome him. Yeah. He holds a PhD from Liverpool University, being an IPS officer, and he is a researcher as well. I'm sure he'll be making his ideas and presenting, and you will not be able to differentiate whether he's an IPS officer or a professor, because he will talk in terms of, factor analysis and regressions and all those kind of things. So we have some talented people in government. Of course, in government, most of the talented people goes in all these services, IAS and IPS. But many of them are now realizing that they also need to create new ideas apart from their routine work and contribute for the country and society intellectually. So Dr. Sudhanshu is one of them, and he is our visiting professor as well, teaches the course here. So welcome you, sir. We have some more important people sitting here. Dean of our IIM Bangalore and his director will be joining tomorrow. And we welcome all of them. And I'm sure many people will be joining and many scholars are sitting here. The idea of coming together, government, digital governance we are talking about. India is today positioning itself, if you see the kind of technology we have introduced by the government. For example, UID. It's unique in the world. No country has been able to build unique identifications database for the entire citizen. It's unique in the world. And based on that, large number of applications has been created by government. UPI, for example, is one of the most powerful applications which is on digital payment. And India today can position itself in terms of digital payment. We are number one country in the world. I was asking somebody which are the 3 areas where India is leading the world. So one of that area is in terms of digital governance and digital payment, India is no doubt number one. In terms of whole world today is facing recession due to post-COVID impact. Everywhere there is a negative growth. India is growing more than 7% in GDP. And the world share in terms of growth of GDP is 16% from India. Means India is number one in terms of share of growth, economic growth. And that is where I think we should be feeling proud of. And that is where B schools also play important role. Third area where India is positioned itself number one is that India is the first country which landed the south pole of the moon in this year. So these are the areas in scientific research also we can say that India has the potential to show the world. It is now the time for the next generation of Indian citizens, like those who are doing their masters here, those who are doing their PhD, those who are also faculty members in various B schools. We need to understand that what is that which our life is supposed to be doing? Is it only to study and get some job or something more? Because the creation of human being is not easy. It is very unique. We are all lucky that we are educated in the top institutions. And therefore, we have to understand that where should be our potential used? Only for employment, getting employment, or we have some zeal to create something for the society? I think these are the areas where we need to have deep discussions in the next 2 or 3 days. So many scholars are here from various places. We also have some eminent guests, Professor Ravi Jain, Mr. Nishit Jain, and other friends. I'll not be able to give all the names, but so many people will be joining. So it's a team of various institutions coming together at IIM Sambalpur, and I'm sure we all will work together and not only create research paper, not only create research publications, but I think the ultimate aim is to create impact for economy, for country, and also for society. World is changing, and world is disrupting in the 3D areas. Disruption due to digitalizations, disruption due to decarbonizations, and disruption due to democratization of business. These are the 3D disruptions we are all witnessing, and that is where I think we'll have to understand that what is the impact of digital disruptions, how new ideas, new products, new services are emerging, whether in the governance or in the business or in society. And India is supposed to be leading the world in terms of digital disruptions. We have already taken UID and UPI. In terms of decarbonization, that is shifting to solar and renewable energies, and also various other sources of energies from agri-based, etc., is a great options and opportunity for all of us to conduct research and create not only research paper but also ideas which can convert into startups. And democratization of business means ultimately small companies has to lead the world, not the large companies alone. So every person sitting here must have a desire and vision in his lifetime, will create something which will become its identity. Because I would like to quote our Lord Krishna says in Gita that life and death is up to you. Life and death is up to you. Nobody dies, nobody is life, unless you create an assets. If you create an assets which is used widely by others, even if you're not there, that is life. And you live your life fully, but you don't create any assets for others, then you are dead. So I think with that approach, we have to work, that what is the impact we are creating for society, which makes society a better place to live, which makes planet better place to live. And now India is emerging as a powerful country, and it all will depend in next 20 or 30 years time we have got, when our young demographic populations, which India is still number one, we have to convert this country into one of the most powerful country in terms of economy as well as military. I think that is where I think this research should conduct, and research should help and take the lead. I am delighted to welcome all of you to this newly built campus. This campus has a very unique feature that you can see in the entire campus. The Sambalpuri Ekkat is depicted across the buildings. That shows that we are emotionally connected with the local populations and local art and culture. The sentiment is an important part of the buildings. We are not just created infrastructure which has got all kind of facilities, but the emotional connect comes from the design of ikkats across the buildings. We are one of the most digitally connected campus. Our classrooms are world class, where we have 3 kinds of board you can go and see. We have physical board, we have digital board, and we have blended board. The blended board is when you write on the plain board, it gets converted into PDF file and come into your mobile. Even you're not sitting in the class, you can get the entire class notes. So we have made entire campus, entire classroom is a blended classroom. So you don't have to write anything in the class. We are also having every facility in terms of sports and art and culture. Just now in our back, our Honorable Minister Shri Dharmendra Pradhanji has inaugurated a center called Center of Rangabati. Rangabati is an open theater here, and Rangabati is also a form of art and culture of this region. And that again connects us with the local populations. Whichever region you are located, you must connect with that. So that is third uniqueness about this campus. In terms of our programs, of course, every institute, IIMs does MBA, Executive MBA, PhD, Executive PhD, MDP, research. These are very common thing. What unique we have done is we have created a business model and business initiatives to make the local business of Sambalpuri fabric, Sambalpuri art and culture, tribal products, handloom, handicrafts into digital platforms. And also we are creating incubation. And only yesterday we got funding of 3 crore from SIDBI to promote this handloom and handicraft business in terms of incubations, and which we have signed MOU with University of Paris. So we are going to have our center in Delhi as well as Paris, where we'll be promoting the local business in the global market. So these are the ideas which these are the ideas. You know, India is full of opportunities, full of products. I think business school has to come forward and create businesses all over the world. We have the best skill here. We have to use this technology, the technology of artificial intelligence, the digital and renewable, and drive the business. And that is the job of business school. We should not just be teaching MBA, PhD and just creating degrees. I think our objective should be to create new civilizations, more civilized world, more livable world, more clean world, more prosperous world, more equitable world. And these are the main objectives of a civilized human being. And business school and management institute or any technical institute has to focus on those lines where we create the new world. India's identity will happen only when we create a more civilized world and let population of India don't move out, but world population should think of coming to India. I think that is the India which we have to create, and we as institute and scholar have to play a wider role. I am sure you all will discuss together, and my fellow directors and my industry experts are here to work. All of us are together. All 21 directors are together. Some of them are not able to join, some more will be joining tomorrow. But we all are together and all scholars are together. Let us create the new world. and create the impact of India, which used to be number one country about 300 years back. Prior to British arrival, India was having 32% of GDP of the world. I think we have to snatch it back and make India the number one in terms of GDP. That is the job of our base schools. That is the job of Institute of IIMs and other base schools. I think that is the in that objective, I think we have to work, create wealth for yourself, for your family, for your surroundings, for your country, with better health all across. Thank you very much for joining this. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable thoughts. I would like to now take the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker for the day, Mr. Ratnesh Jha. Sir is a development professional with more than 3 decades of experience in India working on design and development of large-scale development projects in India. Sir is presently working as Executive Director, UN Global Compact Network India, supporting the private sector in its ESG journey. Prior to this, Sir was a senior fellow at the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, analyzing fiscal and monetary policies. As part of UNDP 2019 to 2018, he has supported bottom of the pyramid clients to improve access to financial services, livelihood opportunities, skill, and entrepreneurship training. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Jha to share his experience. Sir, please.
Thank you so much for that detailed introduction. I'm very happy to be here in this beautiful campus. I've been here only 20 minutes or so, but I can see the beauty and I'm waiting for the morning to happen so that I can take a walk. I mean, you people are really lucky. I mean, I'm coming from Delhi, so you will excuse me for my exuberance. Distinguished guests, directors from IIMs were at the on the dais, and faculty who are training young minds for the new challenges that the industry and the country faces, and most of all the students. I come here from an organization which works at the global level with the industries, with the corporates, with governments, as well as civil society organizations, to focus on the last three words of the topic of this conference, which is inclusive, sustainable growth. I mean, management's emphasis on growth is understandable, and Professor Jaiswal also emphasized that how we have to regain the lost glory that India had at one point of time. But while that is very important, of paramount importance, no society can progress without the underlying economic growth. But is it sustainable and is it inclusive? And these are the two themes which the whole sustainable development goals, many of you may be aware, which all the countries adopted in 2015. But my organization dates back even before that. So UN Global Compact was announced around this time of the year in 1999, when Mr. Kofi Annan was the Secretary General of the UN, and he had the foresight that without private sector's active participation, without management institutes' active participation, without the young, bright managers' active participation, we will not be able to achieve the UN goals, which were the 10 universal principles at that point of time, which if you analyze all of them, the whole journey from 99 to today, it is basically around the same issues. And they can be summed up very beautifully in these three words: inclusive, sustainable growth. And ESG, for which we have a panel tomorrow. Again, there I'll be also giving my thoughts about it. But briefly, ESG is nothing new. I mean, you talk of circular economy, you talk of inclusive sustainable growth, you talk of anything. Ultimately, it is that how we are producing, how we are consuming, and is everyone getting the share of what they are contributing. And if people who are falling behind for whatever reasons, do we have a support mechanism? Do we have something to offer to them? Because unless we put the concerns and the struggles of the last person, we are not really growing. And that was what Mahatma Gandhi also emphasized, his golden talisman, that golden rule about the talisman, that to remember the face of the most, underprivileged or neglected person, and if your action is going to help that person, then I think it's a worthwhile action. So then in our Upanishads also we have this concept of prayas and shreyas. Prayas is what one wants to do. To have the latest iPhone is prayas for all of us maybe. But what is shreyas? I mean, so we go behind the whole mechanism or the structure of the economy. I mean, you people are competent analytical minds here. So does it include more people? And does it negatively impact the environment? And that action can start right from our waking up till we go to sleep. We make hundreds of decisions. And many of them may not fall in the category of shreyas, but we still ignore the call and try to do it. And while doing this, we have reached a stage where it is now being forced upon us. I mean, BRSR reporting and other mechanism, all the teachings, all the learnings that government or regulation is trying to, the whole digital governance is trying to bring in, are contained in the Club of Rome report, if you go back in the 60s. And then over the years, sustainability has changed many terminologies, but ultimately, as a very simple and succinct definition of this concept is that are we leaving behind a better planet than what we inherited? The answer is a big no. And are we individually capable of doing something to arrest this? Answer is a big yes. So I am not a pessimist. I'm not going to scare you with data and statistics, which are all real, by the way. But this is not the occasion. However, I would like you to imbibe this in your each everyday action, because everywhere this dilemma will be there. A cheaper, more convenient, and a apparently more expensive, but in the long run it is much less expensive. So basically, you have to do this trade-off in your minds all the time before running to buy something. Do you really need it? So all these simple actions in your own life will lead to a society where this unsustainable practices will gradually phase out. And unless we do that today and now, things are going to be more and more challenging. And another related aspect is the inclusive part, the rising inequality. I mean, Professor mentioned COVID, and post-COVID, if you go to the airlines, if you go to the hotels, everywhere, it's a mad rush. I mean, as if there is a revenge kind of a thing that we were deprived for 2.5 years. Now we will do all this thing, backlog. But if you read the economic statistics and other things, there's also a concentration of wealth. Now, that concentration of wealth also needs to be addressed. And of course, there are government policies, there are many other taxation and other complicated issues involved. It's not as simple as it appears. But the whole thought and discourse needs to take care of this aspect also, that the contributors to the economy is everyone being equitably and inclusively participating in the economy or not. And if not, then we better wake up and do something. So environment and inclusive, very apt themes, and I would love to be here and share with you formally, informally, and even later if some ideas come, we would be happy to host you at our Delhi office also, because we keep holding such events, such awareness campaigns, and such live projects on the ground where youth like you can come and contribute to this very, very difficult but rewarding journey. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words of inspiration. I would now like to introduce guest of honor, Mr. S.N. Tripathi. Sir is an IAS officer of 1985 batch Odisha cadre, an MA in Political Science from Allahabad University, and MBA in Public Policy from Slovenia. Shri Tripathi is a highly seasoned civil servant with a true academic flavor. Before joining the Indian Administrative Services, he had been lecturing in Allahabad University and working through a banking assignment. He took over the charge of Director General, IIPA, in April 2019, while he was still holding the charge of Secretary, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, Government of India. I would like to invite Mr. Tripathi to motivate us with his words. Sir, please.
Good evening, friends. Good evening. I think I'm talking to the living souls. Respected Director, IIM Sambalpur, my respected directors on the dais, dear colleagues, Sudhanshu ji, my good friend, and dear friends. At age 63, you can only share experience. At age 64, you can also talk about nihilism. And at age 65, you become persona non grata in any society. I'm in twilight zone, so I will try to speak a little bit of it on all the three. Friends, we all know what is government. It is governance which is searching for definition. If you tell what is government, you will find out it is executive, legislative, and judiciary. It is PM, CM, and DMs in bureaucratic language. Take up any other form, you can easily find out what is government. But then what is governance? When you talk about governance, you talk about any public policy analyst, he will find out, he will become philosophical. In Sanskrit, there is a word, tat tvamasi. What is not visible is you. Governance is all that is visible plus all that is invisible plus something more than what is expected. I always say that there is expiry date for blaming your parents, because once you become adult, you stop blaming them. Chalo jo hua hua. But there is no expiry date for government. You and I can always blame government from sunset to sunrise. Now you can add the number also. There are 4,445 IAS officers, so they can also be blamed. I will not include other services for the only sake of respect to them. There are 6,428 MPs and MLAs. These 11,000 people are blamed from sunset to sunrise. You call them governance. Can anybody tell what is the size of government? Anybody? Including on the dais? I think Deloitte might be knowing it also. I will not embarrass any one of you. My size of my variety is 30 million people are governing this country. There are 3 crore bureaucrats, right from lineman to chairman, who are part of government. Changing their mindset with 21 IIMs is not that small thing. If I ask you to design a public policy and give a small problem, why don't you remove hunger? I don't think anybody will dispute that people should remain hungry. You agree? You want to remove hunger? What is the best possible policy option? Any choice? Order pizza, strengthen Swiggy, give indirect and direct subsidy, hunger can be removed. Even Deloitte will agree. And many other consultancies are there who will give these bright ideas also. I'm not singling out you, sir, so please don't blame me because I have already made disclaimer that as a bureaucrat, one can remain cynical also. Friends, if you are designing, some of you will join civil service, I know. Some of you will become critic of civil service also, I know. Some of you will become leader in various fields because it is the IIMs who are dealing with the best mind. It is the best mind who will develop this country into Viksit Bharat, I have no doubt. But suppose you are given this problem in your college or school or institution, design a public policy for removing hunger. What are the levers that you would like to go? First option is ruled out. People don't eat pizza. Swiggy is not in all the corners. Amazon will refuse because Mahaprasad, they have stopped distributing from tomorrow. So you are aware of it. Digitally, everything cannot be done. So what is the way out? Somebody will say that hunger is due to cereals, so let's start producing more cereals. Isn't it? Cereal require land, so require land management. Land require input, you require agriculture input. Land require water, you need Hirakud dams. Land require electricity, you need NTPCs. Even if you produce, it requires to be stored, so you need storage. It needs to be procured, it needs FCI. It needs FCI Act so that it can be done. Even if every grain is procured by FCI, it needs distribution, because after all, farmers can't eat everything that they produce. You need a fair price shop. You need whole network of suppliers and consultants and all those things to deliver it on the ground. What you are dealing with one problem of removal of hunger. It has 46 ministries and departments dealing with it. Each ministry in Government of India consists of at least 10 or 12 department and organization, and each organization is filled up with people like you and me, whose number may be varying from 1,000 to 10,000 or maybe 50,000. Changing their mindset to meet one target of removing hunger. And now, Ratnesh ji just said we have 17 target SDG. If you talk to any management professor, he is expert in giving indices. If you want to remove hunger, these are 7 targets, these are 11 moving targets, these are following sub-targets, these are sub-indicators. Please don't take it otherwise that I'm speaking about that. There is need for managing data. But I'm one of those who believe there's more data has not made us wiser. East India Company did not come to India because they had more data. Did they had? They had impression that Bharat सोने की चिड़िया है, यहाँ चलेंगे तो राजकाज भी करेंगे, and we had enough facilitator inside India that they ruled us for more than 2 decades or 4 decades. When they left also, they colonized our mind, and even today we think that unless Kant, Hobbes and Harvard has said, it is not truth. If something is written in Indian scripture, it must be wrong because it is written in Sanskrit. If it is said by Mahadev ji, then it must be wrong. If it is said by some Robert Simon, it must be correct. If you want to colonize a country, colonize its education system, it will remain colonized till you want. And some of us, at least I feel, that I am also product of that system. When I joined civil services in 1985, there's no need to tell it again, but I thought I will repeat it, because 85 is stuck to us. A great Prime Minister of this country has said that out of every 100 rupee left which leaves Delhi in Planning Commission, only 15% reaches to the great people of India, 85% eaten by these 30 million bureaucrats, these 6,000 elected representatives, now their number has gone to 3 million if you take up panchayat and urban local bodies. So 30 million bureaucrats, 3 million elected people's representative. They have so much appetite that they can consume 85% and फिर भी मुंह पोंछ के बैठे रहेंगे, राधे राधे आधे आधे. In 85, everybody said that 85% goes to the system, 15% goes down. And we call it trickle down. Most of the economists call it trickle down. अचल गगरी छलकत जाए, धीरे धीरे गगरी भरते रहो, धीरे धीरे लोगों गरीबों को भी कुछ न कुछ मिल जाएगा. Friends, poverty is a public policy choice. How we manage income distribution, how we manage wealth distribution is also a public policy choice. My previous colleague just hinted it, that inequality is not inbuilt. Inequality is created. And it is not created by policies, it is created by laws. Today there are 1,500 laws when you can be jailed for only doing business. If you have become a clerk, then you cannot be jailed. But you put up an enterprise, you are supposed to comply 1,576 laws, and each law has 73 sections. Each section has 2 provisos. In any case, we are not governed by the main section, we are governed by provisos, and those provisos are further governed by the state intervention, this and that. It is almost nearly impossible to do business in India if you want to comply all the laws. Government is giving emphasis on ease of doing business. Many government come to make more laws. In fact, bureaucrats are trained in making more laws. IAS officers are paid to complicate your life. I am one of them. And we have done it successfully for many years. I have no hesitation in saying that. We enjoy controls. We are product of control generation. Taylor, scientific management, all these things gives you control over resources. More you granularize, more smaller siloid you make, you get more productivity. That is the law of physics. That has also gone into the management. And this siloization is now killing India. Siloid management, granularized management, everybody knowing what to do at appropriate time, he should be given that much of training. It is good in industry 1.0. When machine was doing machine work and man was supervising the machine plus man was equal to the productivity. When industry 4.0 is there, I think there are professors, I will not like to take thunder out of them. When it is networked world, nobody knows who is doing the best work. The best example of networked world is the Rath Yatra of Puri Jagannath. अपन माने देखी थे वे कि ये दौड़ी टाणु कि ये दौड़ी धड़ी जना पड़े नहीं कि रथ चाल ले. I have done this 14 times, so I can show this with authority at my level. That Rath Yatra, who pulls the Rath, nobody knows. And no single person claimed that if chhadi dele Rath gori bani, Rath will not move. Nobody can claim. But still Rath moves. The best example of network system. Today's organization with siloed mindset in digital transformative environment, they just can't work. And same thing is true for bureaucracy. When government in 2014, the government, Honorable Prime Minister asked us, he met Deputy Secretary to Secretary at least 3 times. I met Honorable Prime Minister at his house and had a good dinner at his house also. And he was present, he was meeting a group of 50 officers. When he says, give us good ideas, you will be surprised that we didn't have good ideas. My ministry was dealing with Ministry of Micro, Small and MSME. When we gave a presentation, it was said that this is wishful thinking. And today I realize that it was a wishful thinking. Doing more of the same and expecting different result is wishful thinking. India has changed, industry has changed, and even the consumer has changed. We all know that neither industry nor government wants citizen to succeed. I am making very strong point. It is like consultant. If you are under-informed, you will rely on me. If you are more informed than me, you will kick me out first. I'm not blaming again the consultancy organization because I am also a consultant only at IIPA. But keeping the customer and keeping the Malik both insufficiently informed is what gives you intermediation. Earlier this task was done by bureaucrats. Sometimes it was done by the political touts. Now there are better PowerPoint wallahs. I don't think one of you are going to be those PowerPoint wallahs. Make a point, don't make a PowerPoint. You don't need a PowerPoint to tell truth. Satyam bad dharmam char. It does not require a very scientific study. Those who believe in it, they can deliver development anywhere. Don't misunderstand me, I am sitting in front of the best brain of India and the best brain managers also and best brain teachers. And I have never done IIM regular course, so I cannot claim that I am a management graduate also. But one thing remains that to develop people of India, you don't require more data. You require insight. When 85 and 15% was happening, it's not that we didn't have data. It's not that government did not knew. When the Prime Minister speaks that 85 is not going to the people of India, he must have adequate information. Prime Ministers don't speak loosely. We knew the problem, but we did not find out solution. Today's technology world, we have solution. 1.4 billion people moving with Aadhaar card. 1.2 billion people having mobile set in their phone. 800 million people are having internet connection without going through any server, this and that. 40% of global transaction and digital transaction is happening in your own truly's country. Whole of Europe, whole of China, whatever they do digitally, that happens once in a month. 12 billion UPI transactions are taking place. When a finance minister was laughing in Lok Sabha, Indians को तो computer चलाना ही नहीं आता. Internet होगा ही नहीं. I don't know how many of you have taken training for how to handle WhatsApp. None. We did not trust the citizens of India. I was talking to Jha Sahab, what happened when we went for very small campaign, you must have heard of it, Har Ghar Tiranga. Have you seen any other campaign, such a low-cost campaign, which has cut across party lines? It was available in every town of the world. The only similar campaign can anyone find out in marketing world is Bix Beparo, which is available in every nook and corner without anyone advertising. And Har Ghar Tiranga happened like that. Nobody was telling what to do. Everybody was moving with Tiranga. When you trust citizen, ladies and gentlemen, you create a favor. And that is what we need in India. 85 and 15 was sorted out digitally. Trickle down did not work in India. Today we are in waterfall model. 100% money goes to the DVT accounts of 50 million people. 50 million accounts were opened. Yeah, I'm just concluding. And the conclusion is that look at Indians as they are. You will find all the solutions. To management graduates, the research scholars, I have only one solution to make. Love your problem, don't love your product. I'm repeating it. Love your problem, don't love your product. Your product may be solving one problem today. It may be creating one more problem tomorrow. But you love the problem, you can find out 100 solutions. Startups are needed, but startup mindset is more needed. इतिहास के बारे में बताया गया, जिस कौम को मिटने का एहसास नहीं होता, उस कौम का दुनिया में इतिहास नहीं होता. We must learn from our history. I was Collector Sambalpur in 91-92, sir. Today I felt so proud that when I entered in IIM campus, I have not seen such a good, beautiful campus anywhere in this part of the region. And let me compliment Mahadevji. We don't have Brahma Vishnu, but at least we have Mahesh. So he deserves all the credit. One thing I will certainly say, ladies and gentlemen, don't go for shortcuts. Go for long cuts. Don't go by PowerPoint. make a point, understand the point. To conclude, I will certainly say, जो पानी से नहाते हैं वो लिबास बदलते हैं, जो पानी से नहाते हैं वो लिबास बदलते हैं, जो पसीने से नहाते हैं वो इतिहास बदलते हैं. Make history. Go and kiss the sky. A big thank you to each one of you for giving me a chance to listen to me. Maybe I have exceeded the brief and exceeded the time both, but that is what a old man I have right to do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging words. I would further like to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Romal Shetty. Sir is the Chief Executive Officer of Deloitte South Asia. He is also a member of Deloitte's Global Executive Committee. In his more than 2 decades of work experience, Mr. Shetty has led large transformation programs across more than 40 countries for Indian and global clients. He is a fellow member of ICAI and a certified information systems auditor. He has also completed the Executive Leadership International Program at INSEAD. I would now request Sir to share his words of wisdom. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, respected Professor Jaiswal. Thank you for your kind invitation. Dignitaries on the dais, respected professors, and of course, my dear students. What I'm going to do today is, I think you've already realized that politicians, bureaucrats, and consultants are quite popular. And obviously, I represent the consulting fraternity, so it's always good to hear good things about consultants. But I think very, very valid comments, and I think very important, because today, for example, when you look at the IIMs are considered as the pinnacle of India's education. This is considered as the cradle of the best minds that are coming into the country. So there is not just about the pride of coming from the IIMs, but it's also about a responsibility towards the country. It's also about a responsibility towards what can be achieved with your intellect and with your brilliance, and not waste your time, trying to go beyond things that don't really make sense. So what I'm going to do today is just talk a few stories. Mine is only going to be stories. If you don't like them, forget them. If you like them, for example, just ensure that you remember them and apply it in your mind. So the topic was quite a bit of things in terms of, it's about innovation, it's about growth, it's about governance, it's about sustainability. There was quite a few things. And I hope this works. I think if we could just move on to the next slide. It doesn't seem to be moving here. If you can just move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So really, innovation is a fairly large topic. And all of these topics by themselves will require probably an hour. I'm going to give you examples of all infused and really innovation from a lens, just a lens of 3 or 4 things. I'll talk a little bit about collaboration, what is necessary for innovation. I'll talk about how being sustainable, how to be more inclusive and some stories around that, and finally around digital governance as well. So moving on to the next slide, right? So really giving you 3 stories, right? First is, of course, Chandrayaan. Now there are 2 or 3 things pretty important in the whole Chandrayaan story. One is, and I'm going to talk about stories that each of us think that we're really, really smart, but I think in today's world to solve problems, you require a whole ecosystem of partners to actually help you. And Chandrayaan is a classic case where, of course, everybody knows ISRO, but did you know that there is also Godrej, there is also L&T, there is also BHEL, there is also Ankit Robotics, a small startup. ISRO has built a system of over 500 partners, which include startups, which include PSUs, which include Indian corporates, right? Includes, for example, the European space agencies. And that is what has sort of made this thing special, to ensure that you actually land on the South Pole. You actually do it in a very frugal manner, right? A frugal manner where a movie about space costs more than actually putting something on the moon, right? That is fantastic. And also with and this is now, I should also play a joke on all of you, right? Because since consultants got a bit of a joke as well, is to say that most of the scientists who were involved in Chandrayaan were not from the IITs or were not from the Indian Institute of Science. This Chandrayaan, this was actually from tier 2, tier 3, and for me, the way I look at it is always optimistic, that if tier 2, tier 3 colleges can produce that kind of talent, India is in very, very good hands. India is in very, very good hands. And that is the beauty of what Chandrayaan has actually achieved. And second, most people say, okay, it's nice to put something on the moon. There's a deeper thinking behind this. It's not just about the pride of the country to say, okay, put a rover and get some statistical data and things like that. It is about the next revolution. For example, a molecule to get infused can happen in space. It can't happen on the Earth. The asteroids that come in, for example, can generate more energy, more renewable energy than what you can get from here. So it's about that, and it's about India taking this, not just this saying that we'll only do low-end stuff, we'll also do semiconductors, we'll also do space. So it's really about changing that mindset of Indians to think that we can do something that nobody else has been able to do, and we did obviously land it on the South Pole that nobody else has done. The second bit of it was, and you're all management students, so I'm going to, talk about stories. So I don't know if you know a guy called Malcolm McLean. Malcolm McLean is the guy who basically changed global trade. If global trade improved dramatically, it is because of this one individual called Malcolm McLean. So what did he do? What was happening earlier? The whole logistics industry, from your trucks to your trains to your shipping, all of this was an industry, and to load, just to give you one data point, to load, for example, in goods from New York to London, right, a full ship, to load would take the same amount of time that the ship would take from New York to London. It's the same amount. So just think of the inefficiency that happened. And what Malcolm McLean, and I'm going to simplify it really, what Malcolm McLean really did, people would look at saying that in the shipping, in the dockyards, for example, ports, how do they optimize things? The truckers, how do they optimize things? The freights, how do they optimize? What Malcolm McLean really did was a very simple thing called a container. The containerization in the world of logistics was actually done by a guy called Malcolm McLean. Logistics has been happening for 2,000 years or even more. Nobody ever thought of the idea that we could put a simple container, and then he worked with the entire ecosystem to say, how do you take a container from a truck, from a ship, all of that, because you have to reframe some of those things. So the ability, why am I saying this is that our ability to think of a problem not as a point solution, but to step back and look at the entire value chain. And that is what the expectation would be from each of you, to step back. You will study different things, but do you have the ability to zoom in, zoom out? If you read Indra Nooyi, she'll talk about the fact that your ability to zoom in and zoom out is extremely critical for you to become extremely successful entrepreneurs, professionals, whatever it is. And the third, which is a very much an India example, and today I'm going to talk a lot about India examples, right? And again, coming back to logistics. Fleet owners, do you know that, for example, 40% of any logistics cost of fleet owners is the tire? It's 40% cost. So what did an Indian company called CEAT actually do? They said, can we change this from 40%, right, to today charging as a capex? Normally you charge about between 5,000 to 20,000 is a tire cost, each tire. Truck has many, trucks and buses have many tires. Can we change it to cost per kilometer? So what did they really do? They basically took all IoT devices, they took the demographics, they took all the, the terrain from which on the tires go, and identified a cost per kilometer between 1.2 to 2.8 kilometers, depending on which terrain you actually moved. What did it actually make the fleet owners do? It reduced their cost by 18%. It reduced their cost by 18%. Remember, 40% of the cost comes from, OPEX cost comes from tires. It also, what CEAT also did was, it said that we'll do all the maintenance. So they got into a relationship with the trucker, with the fleet owner, where they continue to be there with them rather than I sell my tire and then fill it, shut it, forget it. So this is happening in India. Moving on. If I move to the next slide. Yeah, sorry, just a previous slide, please. Yeah. Now, one of the things that Professor Jaiswal spoke about was about the fact that research and innovation in India is not really of that scale. And one company that you really look at is Apple. We talk about $4 trillion economy. Apple is $3 trillion in market cap. Right? If you look at Samsung and Apple, do they deliver the same services? Yes, they do deliver the same services. But the perception of value of an Apple is much higher than a Samsung. So Apple sells less than Samsung, but Apple's turnover is more than Samsung. So very important, and one of the interesting things about Apple is the new Apple Watch, and a number of you have the Apple Watch, that is 100% 100% carbon neutral, which means that the components that have been produced from renewable energy sources. 50% of all the components have not been sent on air, they've actually been sent on other modes. So, and they started this journey not now when ESG is a pretty cool topic to talk about. They started this journey in 2015. So very important of how much you plan and how well you plan, because they say today I'm the CEO and I have a definition of CEOs and CEOs. The COOs, Chief Operating Officers, runs the business of today. The CEOs run the business of tomorrow. So are we thinking beyond a few years? Because nothing happens in the 18 months, everything is tactical. It's beyond 18 months is when you start really being strategic. The second one is on green infrastructure, and this is, we've always talked about the fact that India, when it comes to products, we're great software developers, we will develop everything, Microsoft, everything else has an Indian behind it. But when you come to real products, has India built something? And I can tell you, I've worked across many, many countries in the world. The India stack is probably one of the most incredible innovations done anywhere in the world. It can compete with anybody in the world. I'll give you a simple example of FASTag. Everybody has seen the FASTag, right? So again, management students, you have your data and all of this on your fingertips. But I'll give you a classic case of what GST and FASTag have done. 2017-16, before GST was implemented, a truck in India would go 250 kilometers. After FASTag and GST's implementation, a truck today goes about 500 kilometers. This is in a span of 6 years. The United States, with much better capacity, runs about 800, but India is getting there. But what's interesting about the FASTag is what is governance really, right? A part of governance is to ensure that we don't have leakages. So when FASTag was introduced sometime back, 80 crores was the money that was collected every day from a FASTag, overall FASTag. It's gone up to 200 crores now per day. Did our vehicles increase 2.5 times? The answer is no. It's just that because it became digital, it was difficult for corruption to actually thrive. So 80 crores has moved to 200. But what else has happened? The waiting time waiting time before this was about 12 minutes in a toll gate. Now it is 47 seconds. You know what that means for the environment? India has saved 70,000 crores of fuel just because of FASTag and GST. Isn't that remarkable? Right? An absolutely brilliant product, right? Okay, I move to, now there are things where I'm again talking about India examples. Diksha, for example, now you are in the premier educational institution, but when COVID struck, a lot of the young kids did not have the ability to access education. The teachers did not have the ability to access good practices of teaching. And that's what Diksha has done. So at the height of COVID, there were over 3 crore hits on Diksha. And today, a child with a QR code can actually access any knowledge content that is available in India. Right? This is done out of India. Right? And we have our challenges, we have our issues, but it's something incredible. The second bit of ONDC, we talk about inclusive, and I'm giving non-government examples, inclusive. Today, everything, e-commerce is built on a platform of Amazon and Flipkart. But what has ONDC really done? ONDC has taken one Kirana store to say, here is a customer, I'm from Bangalore, Kirana store in Bangalore, logistics partner in Bangalore, I can connect all the three, and ONDC will facilitate that without actually taking any of the significant margins. This is going to revolutionize everything that is sold. And remember, this is taking on companies like Amazon and Walmart, which are world-class companies. It's not easy. This is done out of India. This innovation is done out of India. The other bit is also, in terms of when we look at inclusive and the thinking. I don't know if you know this guy called David Sarnoff. So when the radio was invented, right, when the radio was first, for example, radio was, in the United States, people were buying radios. It just didn't take off. It just did not take off. First, the radio was never live, right? So it would give news. And in the United States, pretty much you had a lot of newspapers. You had 3 times a day newspapers coming into your house, which would give you news. So people were really tired of that, and people didn't want to listen to more news. So this guy decided to relook and reimagine what is something that could really improve. So you may have a great idea, but does it really take off? So what did he do? He actually he live broadcasted a boxing match. It was a very popular boxing match. That particular boxing match led to actually the radio becoming more popular. It was not the news. It was a boxing match that actually led radio to become popular. Now, why am I saying this? Sometimes we have a lot of good innovations. We have a lot of good things, but you don't know what is it that really takes. And this ability to, again, step back, think differently. Education is great, but it should never constrain your mind to say that's the only way to think. And therefore, this is a great example of, how radio really became popular. We spoke about, payments. Now, I'll give you a thing from again, here are very respected, from a bureaucracy, from a government of India, I think. But I'll give you a real case of how 3 or 4 things have changed India. This is a real story. Yeah? There are 2 villages in Uttar Pradesh. They are separated by 4 kilometers, just 4 kilometers. Okay? There is no road. There is no there is no electricity most times. There's obviously the 2 villages. One village produces excess milk. But because of the roads and everything else, you're not actually able to, there's no trade happening between the 2 villages at all, right? Because it's very difficult to walk, it's not arable at all. Now what has happened in India is, India has the 2nd largest road network. We may agree, disagree, the quality of roads and everything else, but India has the 2nd largest road network in the world now. Electricity is there in pretty much 95% places. Because of electrification, because of the mobile phone, which came in, of course, much before, roads, and now UPI payments, the trade between the 2 villages has gone up 70%. That is real GDP increase. Earlier, that milk, 70% of the milk was actually thrown. It was perishable. It was thrown. Now that has changed. If you go, for example, again, I'm in an academic institute, and I should tell you this, that 60% of PhDs from the United States of America are actually fraudulent. 60% of PhDs. We now have a nice system called the DigiLocker, which can actually verify certain things. And when you go on a DigiYatra today, it combines Aadhaar, it combines DigiLocker, it combines facial recognition. That is true innovation. I spend a lot of time in outside India airports. It's terrible. I can tell you we are more world class than they are. You have to stand in lines, do all those things. In most airports, you're actually able to go through. And of course, when COVID was done, we administered 25 million shots. 25 million shots is the extent of the Australian population in one day. And that country, a developed country, much better in terms of everything, parameters, health parameters, education, all of those things overall per capita, right? Australia could not administer. And that was because of creating a world-class platform, bringing on different ecosystem players. And This is something that is going to be for each of you. Your next idea is not going to be one single point solution. It is going to be about trying to bring this ecosystem and really making an impact. And we as Deloitte, and one of the innovations that we did as Deloitte, and again, young kids, so you'll know this. I hope you know this. If you traverse an e-commerce site in India, any of the largest e-commerce site, and you go through all the web pages, that's about 10 kilometers a day of petrol. One user. Most people think that software doesn't emit carbon emission. 3% of the global emissions is done by software, and with generative AI coming in now, which is going to be one of the most important things, it's going to be the most disruptive thing in your careers as well, Gen AI, it will become 14%. So 14% of emissions will come from ICT. And one user is equivalent to 10 kilometers of petrol traveled every day. Did you know this? That out of any code written, pretty much, most codes written, 60% of the code is never used, only 40% code is used, but because of that loop, you're actually contributing to energy. So we actually built an innovation out of India that could take any website in the world and basically say whether you're energy efficient, you're energy inefficient, and we built compression techniques to say that can you take a 400 MB video file and make it 400 KB? This is not done anywhere else in the world, done out of India. And second is most websites, interestingly, are not inclusive. So what do we mean by not inclusive? That means if you're colorblind, which 5% of the world's population is colorblind, or if you're astigmatic, which is 25 to 30% of Indians are astigmatic, you will not be able to make the difference in a website, in any website. And therefore, how do you be inclusive as well? So this is the generation, right? We are a generation that was there. India has come to a certain level, but you're going to be the generation that is going to take it to the next level. Please, my only one request is don't run away to the West. This is the country where things will change dramatically, but we can't lose all the talent pool outside. You need to be here in this country, and trust me, the opportunities that you will get will be far more than any other Western country because you'll be able to do a lot more things than being very point solution. I really do hope, like I said, it's a privilege to always speak to students. And of course, please listen to your teachers, listen to your professors, because they will make the maximum impact in your life. You will remember many years later, maybe you'll not realize it now, but do listen to them and soak in all that energy, soak in all of that education. It is good for you. Don't worry about trying to retain in your head. Just soak in and make an impact. Always keep thinking about what is the impact that you make for the country, what is the impact that you make for whichever, your profession, your company, whatever it is. So all the best, and like I said, thank you again for inviting me, and I do hope you remember a few stories after my session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now like to request Professor Jaiswal to felicitate our chief guest. I would now like to request Professor Jaiswal to kindly felicitate our guest of honor. I would now request Sir to kindly felicitate our keynote speaker. I would now request Professor Jaiswal to kindly felicitate Professor Kulbhushan Baloni, Director, IIM Kashipur. So now, I would like to introduce our 9th Pan IIM World Management Conference Chair, Professor Sudhindra Rao. Dr. Rao received his Bachelor's in Mechanical Engineering from NIE Mysore, Master's in Industrial Engineering from NITI Mumbai, and a PhD in Decision Science from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, USA. I would like, Sir, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks. Sir, please.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, dignitaries in the audience, my colleagues and delegates and my dear students. In public speaking, they say the most dangerous position is to come between the audience and its dinner. So I try to make it short. But I'm here for a very pleasant task. Other than one small event we had, once we moved to the new campus, this is our biggest event that we are holding. Thank you. So, as they say in America, this is like our coming out party. And I'd like to thank all the dignitaries who have joined us in this celebration. I'd like to begin with our keynote speaker, Mr. Ratnesh Jha, sorry. He, to put it in mathematical terms, he said, which is one of the axiomatic truths, that for us to grow as a society and humanity, GDP growth is necessary but not sufficient. So he also highlighted the role of sustainability and inclusion, which are essential for moving towards our millennium objectives, and also outlined the roles that all of us in business schools can be part of, roles we have to play in reaching those objectives. Thank you for joining us today, sir. Our thanks are also due to Mr. S.N. Tripathi, who outlined the challenges in dealing with a large system, changing mentalities, and how he also outlined some paths to deal with that, given his long experience. And also I hope, sir, that your refreshing honesty will not only sustain but grow during your twilight period. Thanks for joining us again. And despite being head of one of the largest public professional service companies, our next guest, Mr. Roman Shetty, found time to join us today. And in keeping with the theme of this conference, he laid out a framework for innovation. Our main theme is about innovation and sustainable inclusive innovation. He laid out the theme for such a conference for innovation, framework for innovation, and also illustrated those things with very homely truths close to our home, which hope will help those points stick in our minds. And it's also as an old timer for me, I was also very happy to hear the name of Malcolm McLean, one of the unsung heroes of globalization. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Shetty, and sharing your words of wisdom. And as always in all our activities, our director, Professor Jaiswal, is the dynamo, the engine, which motivates us in all our activities and initiatives. On top of that, he joined us today. He laid the overall theme, the objective of this conference. He also has charted out the path that all of us who will be part of this conference over the next couple of days can follow to achieve some of the other objectives that other guests have outlined. Thank you for joining us again, Professor Jaiswal. My thanks. Yes, please. My thanks are also to the directors of our peer IIMs who, despite their schedules, have traveled long distances to join us in our celebration. Thank you all, sir. We hope to hear from you tomorrow. My thanks are also to the various participants and delegates who have joined us here and those who will be joining us online over the next couple of days. Thanks for joining us today and hoping making this a big success. And also to my colleagues and my dear students who have patiently waited for this long and provided a good audience for this distinguished group of speakers. Thank you all. And I'll be remiss if I don't thank all our staff whose real hard work has laid the foundation to make this event very grand success. Thank you and good night.
Thank you so much, sir. Now it's time for a short video on Rangavati Center of Excellence, which was inaugurated by Honorable Minister Shri Dharmendra Pradhan, which was inaugurated today. Sir, 2 minutes लगेगा बस.
କୃଷ୍ଣ ପଟେଲଙ୍କୁ ପଦ୍ମ ପୁରସ୍କାରରେ ସମ୍ମାନିତ କରାଯିବା ଆମ ପାଇଁ ଗୌରବର ବିଷୟ। ଭାରତ ସରକାରଙ୍କ ଦ୍ୱାରା ପ୍ରତିଷ୍ଠିତ IIM ସମ୍ବଲପୁରଠାରେ ପଶ୍ଚିମ ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ସଂସ୍କୃତି ତଥା ନିରନ୍ତର ପ୍ରବନ୍ଧନ ଉପରେ ବିଶ୍ୱସ୍ତରୀୟ ଗବେଷଣା ପାଇଁ ଏକ ଉତ୍କର୍ଷ କେନ୍ଦ୍ର ସ୍ଥାପିତ ହେଉଛି। ଏହି ଉତ୍କର୍ଷ କେନ୍ଦ୍ରର ନାମକରଣ ରଙ୍ଗବତୀ ସେଣ୍ଟର ଫର ଏକ୍ସେଲେନ୍ସ ଇନ୍ କଲ୍ଚର ଆଣ୍ଡ ସଷ୍ଟେନେବଲ୍। ଏହି ଉତ୍କର୍ଷ କେନ୍ଦ୍ର ପଶ୍ଚିମ ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ବହୁ ସାଂସ୍କୃତିକ ବିଭବ ଯେପରିକି ଅନେକ ପ୍ରାଣୋଚ୍ଛଳ ନୃତ୍ୟ, ହୃଦୟସ୍ପର୍ଶୀ ଗୀତ, ପ୍ରକୃତି ଉପାସନା, ସମୃଦ୍ଧ ଖାଦ୍ୟ ସଂସ୍କୃତି, ଯାହା ଉନ୍ନତ କୃଷି, ବୟନ ଶିଳ୍ପ ତଥା ପଶ୍ଚିମ ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ହେଉଥିବା ସଶସ୍ତ୍ର ଏବଂ ଅହିଂସା ସ୍ୱାଧୀନତା ସଂଗ୍ରାମର ବହୁ ଅନାଲୋଚିତ ଘଟଣା ଏବଂ ସଂଗ୍ରାମୀଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ଉଚ୍ଚ କୋଟିର ଗବେଷଣା କରିବ। ଏହା ସହ ଏହି ଉତ୍କର୍ଷ କେନ୍ଦ୍ର ବ୍ୟବସାୟ, ନବ ଉନ୍ମେଷ ବା ଇନୋଭେସନ ଓ ଉଦ୍ୟମିତା ବା ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରେନ୍ୟରସିପ୍ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ନିରନ୍ତର ପ୍ରବନ୍ଧନ ବା ସଷ୍ଟେନେବଲ୍ ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟର ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଦିଗ ଉପରେ ବିଶେଷ ରୂପେ ଅଧ୍ୟୟନ କରିବ। ମାନନୀୟ ପ୍ରଧାନମନ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଶ୍ରୀ ନରେନ୍ଦ୍ର ମୋଦୀଙ୍କର ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ବିକାଶ ପାଇଁ ପ୍ରତିବଦ୍ଧତା ଏବଂ କେନ୍ଦ୍ର ଶିକ୍ଷା ମନ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଶ୍ରୀ ଧର୍ମେନ୍ଦ୍ର ପ୍ରଧାନଙ୍କ ସହଯୋଗରେ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ୍ ଇନଷ୍ଟିଚ୍ୟୁଟ୍ ଅଫ୍ ମ୍ୟାନେଜମେଣ୍ଟ ସମ୍ବଲପୁର ଆଜି ମ୍ୟାନେଜମେଣ୍ଟ ଶିକ୍ଷା କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ନିଜର ଏକ ସ୍ୱତନ୍ତ୍ର ପରିଚୟ ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରିଛି। IIM ସମ୍ବଲପୁରର ସ୍ଥାୟୀ କ୍ୟାମ୍ପସର ଶିଳାନ୍ୟାସ ମାନନୀୟ ପ୍ରଧାନମନ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଶ୍ରୀ ନରେନ୍ଦ୍ର ମୋଦୀଙ୍କ କରକମଳରେ ହୋଇଥିଲା। ଜୟ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥ। जय मां समलेश्वरी। ओडिशार भाई भौणी मानकु मोर जुहार। नुआ वर्ष समस्त पाई मंगलमय है। IIM संबलपुर का परमानेंट कैंपस ओडिशा की महान संस्कृति और संसाधनों की पहचान के साथ ओडिशा को मैनेजमेंट की दुनिया में नई पहचान दिलाने वाला। सांप्रतिक समय में IIM संबलपुर उच्च कोटिर शिक्षादान गवेषणा सांगकु बुଣାକାର ମାନଙ୍କର ଦକ୍ଷତା ବିକାଶ ଦିଗରେ महत्वपूर्ण कार्य କରୁଛି। ସମଲେଶ୍ୱରୀଙ୍କ କୃପାରୁ ମାଟିର ମଣିଷ ଶ୍ରୀ ଧର୍ମେନ୍ଦ୍ର ପ୍ରଧାନଙ୍କ ମାନସ ପ୍ରକଳ୍ପ ରଙ୍ଗବତୀ ସେଣ୍ଟର ଫର ଏକ୍ସେଲେନ୍ସ ଇନ୍ କଲ୍ଚର ଆଣ୍ଡ ସଷ୍ଟେନେବଲ୍ ମ୍ୟାନେଜମେଣ୍ଟ ଆଗାମୀ ଦିନରେ ପଶ୍ଚିମ ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ସଂସ୍କୃତି ଓ ନିରନ୍ତର ପ୍ରବନ୍ଧନ ବିଷୟରେ ମୌଳିକ ଗବେଷଣା କରି ଏ ଅଞ୍ଚଳର ସାଂସ୍କୃତିକ, ଅର୍ଥନୈତିକ ଓ ବ୍ୟବସାୟିକ ବୈଭବକୁ ଏକ ନୂଆ ଓ ଉଜ୍ଜ୍ୱଳ ପରିଚୟ ଦେବ। ଜୟ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥ। ଜୟ ମା ସମଲେଶ୍ୱରୀ। এইটা আমার রঙ্গবতী অঞ্চল। এটি অন্যের আনন্দরে খুশি হবার ये भारतीय परंपरा, ये उत्कर्षीय परंपरा, ये रंगवती परंपरा, এইটা আমাদের সংস্কার।
So just 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. Now, as we commence this journey, let us embrace the spirit of exploration, dialogue, and collaboration that defines the essence of the Pan IIM World Management Conference. Once again, a heartfelt welcome to all our esteemed dignitaries. May the next few days be filled with inspiration, discovery, and for forging of lasting connections that will shape the future of management on a global scale. Thank you everyone for gracing us with your presence. I would now request all the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais along with the faculties and conference participants to move ahead for the dinner in Community Hall.